Welcome to Healthy Births, Happy Babies, where we share tips, tools, and stories grounded in natural childbirth and parenting principles, so that instead of feeling overwhelmed and confused during this exciting time in your life, you feel safe, supported, and empowered in your childbirth and parenting journey. And now, here's your host, Dr. Jay Warren.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Healthy Births, Happy Babies. I'm Dr. Jay Warren. I'm the prenatal and pediatric chiropractor here at the CAP Wellness Center. And on today's episode, we have a leading fitness expert here to talk about prenatal fitness. Her name's Farel Hruska. She is the Global Fitness Director of Fit4Mom. And if you remember from a previous episode, we talked with Lisa Druxman. She's the CEO and founder of Fit4Mom. It's a comprehensive fitness program for women. It starts with Fit4Baby, which is the prenatal fitness program. And we at the CAP Wellness Center actually just started that program, the Fit4Baby program here at the CAP Wellness Center 3 days a week. So we're really excited for that. And once after the birth, then Fit4Mom has stroller strides. A lot of people have heard about stroller strides, and then it continues on with body back. And when Lisa Druxman was on the podcast, we talked about postpartum fitness. Did it a little backwards. We're going to talk about prenatal fitness today with Farel, and she's going to dispel a lot of myths that have been perpetuated around exercise in pregnancy. We're going to talk about heart rate and how high you really can go. We'll talk about which exercises are dangerous and which ones are okay. And we're also going to talk a lot about mindset, around maybe some mindset shifts that need to happen during pregnancy around fitness goals, exercise goals, to be able to suit it towards pregnancy, healthy pregnancy, preparing for birth, and then also setting yourself up for a really successful postpartum recovery. So she's got so much knowledge here. I want to switch over to that conversation as soon as possible. But before I do that, as always, I want to take a message from our sponsor, the CAP Wellness Center. Hi, it's Dr. Jay, and one of the things I love about working at the CAP Wellness Center is being able to play a role in bringing a baby into the world that much more safely, much more naturally, and much more healthy. You know, it's something that is an amazing gift to give a child, to have them start off their life healthy without the stress and the trauma that can all too often be a part of the birth experience. So I consider it an honor to work with pregnant women to help them with that time during their pregnancy. And it is a privilege to be able to work with infants and help correct any distortions that might have happened through the birth process and allow them to start off their life healthy in alignment and in balance, so that a health challenge doesn't hold them back from being all that they can be in this world. All right, so now let me introduce our guest to you, and then we can switch over to our conversation. With 20 years' experience as a personal trainer, group fitness instructor, and educator, Farel Hruska has been with Fit4Mom since 2002. As an international educator and presenter in prenatal, postnatal, and overall fitness education, Farel has presented at numerous fitness conferences, including Empower, FitFest, SCW, the Asia Fitness Conference, the Fitness Festival of South Asia, MeFit Pro in Dubai, and Idea World and PTI. Farel has been featured by numerous press outlets for her fitness expertise, including CNN, the New York Times, WebMD, Women's Running Magazine, SheKnows.com, and Pregnancy.com. So with that, let me switch over to my conversation with Farel. All right, Farel, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, I'm happy you're here because we're really excited here at CAP Wellness. We've just started the Fit4Baby pregnancy fitness program here this month, and but I also get a ton of questions about prenatal fitness and how much to exercise and what to do and what not to do. So I'm really glad to have you on to be able to kind of cut through those myths that we were talking about before we got onto the recording. So before we jump into all of that, though, we read your bio, we heard your background there, but give us a little more around how you got interested in fitness and then also came to be part of Fit4Mom and interested in pregnancy.
Okay. Yeah, I have been involved in the fitness industry for quite some time, and pretty much have taught everything, whether it's group fitness or personal training, anything under the sun. And I found a real big disconnect when I personally became a mom and found that there was such a lack or void of information around prenatal fitness. And I decided to, at that moment, because it was so personal for me, to make that my mission. And so when finding that we can make changes in the lives of these women, not just in their physical being, but in their emotional well-being as well, it became such a need and such a desire to make sure that each of these moms felt taken care of and in a fitness program that was specific to their journey throughout pregnancy. And that's been my journey for the last 15 years with Fit4Mom, which is the company that I work for now.
Right, and Fit4Mom, we had Lisa Druxman on the podcast earlier to talk about postpartum fitness, the do's and don'ts, and I'm really excited to be able to have you go in the do's and don'ts and dispel some of these myths that might be getting in the way of a mama being as healthy as they possibly can. So with your experience, I mean, you've been with Fit4Mom for a long time. What do you find is the biggest challenge that women have once they've found out they've become pregnant and trying to integrate exercise or continue their exercise program?
Right. No, I think that probably the biggest one is that we still have so much information that's out there that's outdated. And unfortunately, in some ways, it might be still perpetuated a little bit from the medical community. And by no means am I saying that the medical community is out of place in that sense, but we do have a lot of really updated research, and not a lot of our physicians are privy to that information, or at least haven't looked into it. And so unfortunately, there are some physicians that are still giving out outdated research. But the other thing is that this is a very interesting time, especially for a first-time mom, because of the outdated information that's just out there and myths and misconceptions. She's so concerned about whether what she does is going to harm her baby. And the reality is, pregnancy is a state of health. And so when she can see it from that standpoint, she can actually make some really good decisions on how she's caring for her body versus being fearful.
Right. And what are the major myths that you hear women are coming to you with that are perpetuated?
Well, one is just the base level that fitness could harm their baby, right? Because they're so concerned about doing too much or doing the wrong thing. So that's the first one. The second one is around heart rate. There's really old information that was actually changed by ACOG. So we're all familiar with the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. They changed their heart rate stance in 2002. They used to say, don't get your heart rate above 140. And they took that out in 2002, and unfortunately, it's just still there. And it's one of those that is still kind of spiraling in the heads of a lot of women. And 140 is a pretty low heart rate, especially if you're going to go into some sort of exercise program. So that's one of them. And then the other one is around core contraction and how that could, if she's working on core strength during pregnancy, that could either harm the baby or it's just useless because your core is being stretched throughout pregnancy as well. So, there are a lot of things that bring out anxiety and trepidation. And so if we can help these ladies understand that it's not just okay to exercise during a healthy pregnancy, it's actually recommended now, and it's a really exciting time for women.
And I have a lot of questions that have been sent to me to ask you about core stuff. So we'll get into that. Sure. But I do want to talk about first. We get questions about first trimester exercising. What recommendations do you have for women around the first try?
Right. Well, ACOG is recommending that women start an exercise program even if they were sedentary prior to becoming pregnant, and that, again, is a big misconception as well. There's that concern that if she starts first trimester that there could be some damaging damaging results to baby, and that's actually a myth. The thing that keeps a lot of women from exercising during the first trimester, I believe, is that they just don't feel very good.
Right.
And so the idea of joining a fitness program at that point, it doesn't sound very desirable. Because of increased blood flow that happens in the second trimester, most women, not all, will start to feel a good bit better second trimester. So the reality is most women, if they're interested in starting a fitness program, will probably join second trimester. But there's nothing wrong with starting, even if it's a very conservative, slow approach, to just get moving.
Okay. And then into the third try, I mean, and the women I work with have the same thing. Like first trimester, like, I'm not exercising. I don't feel well at all. That's the last thing on my list of things. But then that second wind or feeling better into the second try, then that inspiration to get moving happens in second. And then third try, there is either a decrease in energy level or there becomes more concerns. And so if it's energy levels, we want to work with that, obviously, but then also myths. What are your recommendations in the third try?
Third trimester, really the main recommendation for any of our trainers specifically is just encourage them to keep moving. Most women will start to slow down. There is a reduced venous return in third trimester, meaning their circulation starts to naturally slow down anyway. So the more they can keep moving, the better they're going to feel. Possibly less edema or swelling in the ankles and hands. And just increased circulation helps with mood. Helps with energy levels. So it might look different third trimester, but just to keep going. And that being said, there will be some women too that feel they can just go at the same level they've been going second trimester through their third trimester, and there's nothing wrong with that as well, including running, jumping. As long as they feel okay doing it and they don't have any contraindications, it's recommended just to keep going. We're in a world of maintenance right now, so I guess right now I'm speaking more towards the pregnant athlete, and that if there were things that she was doing prior to becoming pregnant, the guidelines are to keep doing what she was doing, not increase speed, not increase intensity, but in a healthy pregnancy, it's a matter of maintaining, not necessarily pulling back.
Right. I find with some of the women I work with that are very athletic, very fit, that there is a mindset, if you will, around, okay, I need to keep gains. I need to keep working out just as hard, or they're discouraged because the workout they did 6 months ago, they're not able to do as strong. And I keep trying to say, like, well, your body's completely different than it was 6 months, and to, keep moving and working. But the idea isn't to get fit or stay at the same fitness level you were before you got pregnant, but to be fit as a pregnant woman.
Exactly. And so sometimes that's a dangerous mentality, isn't it? Right? Because that pregnant athlete, and when I say athlete, I don't mean, that she's medaled or that she's won anything, but it's it's a mindset. And to get to that level, it's going to require pushing through pain and pushing through fatigue. That's how an athlete gets to their next level of performance. And that mindset can be a dangerous mindset during pregnancy, because pushing through pain and fatigue, obviously, hopefully it's obvious, is not our appropriate mindset during pregnancy. And so as a trainer or a mom who's in that mindset, super important to kind of keep that mindset in check, and that it's about maintenance and just keep moving as opposed to getting to that next level, just like you said.
And with those women athletes, or that very athletic, in that, especially in the third trimester, what I found is it's a hard switch to go into for them to say, well, gosh, I'm getting out of shape now. How am I going to birth this baby if I can't even do the workouts I was doing before? Or, even women that aren't as fit, they're like, I can't even walk from the parking lot into Trader Joe's without losing my breath. How am I going to birth a baby? And so that mentality is there's a switch that comes, okay, wait a minute, my body's pregnant, so I need to change it. But I'm sure that's something that in the third try needs really to be addressed. Absolutely. And,
if that, especially if it's that athlete we're talking about, switch your focus. A lot of our athletes are goal-driven, they're results-driven. And so if we can change the mindset of I'm losing my fitness or I'm out of shape to, hey, we're actually in training for labor and delivery. So that's your finish line, and that's what we're going towards. So if we can keep moving in a way that's going to keep your body strong and your head strong, so that when you're at your event, your labor and delivery event, you have the mindset that this is what you've been training for, as opposed to whatever that other event might be in your life, whether it's a marathon or triathlon or whatever it might be, and that we need to honor our body and do what we can do with the body that we have today. And that's kind of a mindset that even throughout pregnancy, give what you've got with what you've brought today. That goes into postnatal as well. I'm sure that Lisa probably brought that up. You never know day to day as a prenatal woman or a mom. And so you take what your body gave you today and work with what that is, as opposed to putting judgment or labeling in shape or out of shape.
Good. Well, and another mindset challenge, it's very emotionally challenging, is around like weight. There's, especially if you're used to a certain level of fitness and using exercise as a weight loss tool or weight management tool, and then your body's going through all these natural changes that are associated with pregnancy rather than with getting out of shape. How do you address those concerns or help? I love the like switching focus advice you just had around training to labor and delivery. Like, do you have any advice for women around that as well?
Well, I think more than anything, it's just really being honest and clear about what their body is going through. Their body will change more in these 9 months, and forgive me, but that a man's body will change in his entire lifetime, probably. And so to be really, have some grace and some appreciation for what their bodies are going through, and to be less focused on the concern of weight gain and a little bit more focused on their health and wellness, so that they keep moving. They do add strength opportunities to keep their body strong and their body in neutral, because their bodies will change. The musculoskeletal imbalances are profound if they're not addressed. Good nutrition, great mindset in terms of just creating space for themselves, and that is the focus, as opposed to it being a weight issue. Her body is growing human life. Let's be less concerned about whether we gained a pound or 5 pounds, and a little bit more concerned with how do we feel and what are we doing to nourish our body so that this baby is growing in a really healthy, beautiful landscape, as opposed to, my body's changing so much, how will I ever get my body back? Your body will come back. And in fact, you can have the opportunity to be leaner, stronger, and fitter than you've ever been, even before you had a baby. So the focus needs to shift on the process that these ladies' bodies are in, really honoring and having some grace with themselves.
Right. Not just for the health of the pregnancy, but then for health of the postpartum recovery.
Exactly.
Being able to switch, just let go of, not just let go, because it's not that simple for women. I appreciate that. But having the switch over to, okay, I'm not going to ditch my exercise program because I can't do what I did before.
Exactly.
You want to just switch into like, let me keep moving, doing the same, and then I'll be able to get back into it that much better, because you've maintained a level of fitness rather than letting it go altogether.
Exactly. You bet. And it's just a chapter, right? To have that understanding of that this isn't forever. It's only 9 months. Even though it feels like forever sometimes, especially that last month. But this isn't forever, and to I sound just a bit hippie, but to find a new energy in that space, to keep moving, and that it will look different, and that when you come out on the other side, that will look different too. Like I said, it was amazing to me to look back at these last Olympics and to see how many women that were moms were medaling, and to see them on that immense level of performance after having children. So, having a baby is not like a sentence for your body. So to really recognize that during this chapter, things will look a little bit different. You do what you can with the body that you have, and then also at the other side of it, be excited about what your bodies can do. We feel very strongly that women are finding their strength in motherhood, not their strength despite motherhood. Motherhood is a very empowering space to be in, and if she can really own that, it's an incredible time, an incredible shift for her, even the rest of her life.
Right. I love that. Finding strength in motherhood rather than despite it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, let's switch over to core and pelvic floor issues, because that's something that there's a lot of myths and truths out there that get mixed up around how much you're supposed to be concerned around that, whether it's the Kegels or doing ballistic exercise. So in general, tell me your approach or your the philosophy on that, the most current research on that, and then we'll jump into some of the questions that were passed on to me.
Okay. Well, core engagement is crucial just as a human being, right? Just to holding that space and that strength to support the spine, so that when we go to react in life, we have a preloaded strength and a preloaded engagement. So having a mindset of keeping the core engaged to prepare your body to respond to life. So when we are going through pregnancy, it's even as important to make sure that core contraction stays strong and stays active. In other words, that a woman's mindset is actively bracing her core throughout her life. And that doesn't mean really strong. It's just like a anticipatory contraction, if you will. So when you are moving through your world and you need to reach for something fast or you need to react to something physically, you've already preloaded and braced your core to protect your spine. During pregnancy, because of the increased weight distribution, we start to see some exaggerated spinal curves that happen. One specifically is at the lumbar spine called lordosis. So it's like a sway back. And relaxin is flowing through her body. All her joints are loosened because of relaxin. And specifically speaking on this one about the pelvic joint, there's an anterior pelvic tilt that can happen. So her pelvis starts to rotate anteriorly and she can create this sway back. Without that really good core strength, she's not able then to pull her pelvis back into neutral. And when I say core, I want to be real specific that you think about it as a three-dimensional cylindrical unit. I think oftentimes we think core, we just think six-pack, or the six-pack that might be shy and hiding in there somewhere, right. Of just rectus abdominis, right? But it's a whole unit. It's our whole trunk, from all the layers, transverse, obliques, rectus abdominis, rectus spinae, on top diaphragm, on bottom pelvic floor. It's all part of that unit. And so if we can keep that core musculature nice and strong, it will help decrease that lordotic curve and help decrease muscle fatigue and muscle pain. It also could help decrease unwanted skeletal shifts. So at the pelvis, with a strong, especially strong transverse, your deepest layer of abdominal musculature, if we can keep that nice and secure around the pelvis, she won't have unwanted shifts where maybe one side of the pelvis rises up or rotates anteriorly, because that can lead to pain at the pubic symphysis, for lack of a better way of saying it, right at the crotch. Forgive me for saying the word, but that kind of pain, and there can be some shear force at that joint. So there are a lot of arguments around why core strength is so important, in addition to it being really pivotal in the labor and delivery event, and then also in recovery. So I know that there could be some myths: don't twist, don't do this, don't do that. Well, spinal flexion, spinal extension, rotation, all these are life movements. And so if we take them out of our exercise routine during pregnancy, we're actually not training for the functionality of life, and specifically motherhood. I mean, part of the journey throughout pregnancy is definitely keeping our body strong, trying not to gain too much weight, trying not to have our posture shift too much. The reality is you're also training for motherhood. And motherhood is a very physically demanding job and a physically reactionary job. And if we can help her create that great core contraction, she's going to be better off and ready for that job.
Right. And there's so much back and forth around like pelvic floor tightening, Kegeling. Right. There has been times where people are saying like you have to Kegel, make sure it's strong to prevent risk of prolapse later on. But then there's people that are saying that if you over Kegel and the pelvic floor is too tight, it's going to interfere with childbirth. What's your take on that?
Honestly, my take on it is that we need to strengthen our pelvic floor muscles like we would strengthen any other muscle in our body. And that means that the concentric phase is as important as the eccentric phase, meaning we need to know how to contract and we need to know how to release. So it's not like we're in this constant state of pelvic floor contraction, because yes, that can create shortening and tightening of those muscles if they're kept in that isometric load for that long. So just like we would encourage full range of motion in a bicep curl, we're going to encourage full range of motion in the pelvic floor. And I think that number one, these muscles are ignored because it's in a very intimate spot and people don't want to talk about it. But if you can think about it, it's just another set of muscles, just like your hamstrings are or your quadriceps are. And we need to train them in full range of motion so that there's a very healthy strengthening and releasing of that musculature.
And I have to say, it was Heather, our Fit4Baby instructor, that started here in a conversation that really taught me that concept, which was brand new, around the eccentric contraction around pelvic floor. And I'm so happy to have more updated information about it, because the way I was counseling women around pelvic floor stuff is we want you understanding where the pelvic floor is and having it toned, but I don't want you to over tighten it, because that can cause another set of problems. And so, but I was only thinking of the Kegel or the pelvic floor tightening as the concentric, the contraction, because in childbirth, if baby's dropping down onto the pelvic floor, you want everything to open. So we want a woman to understand, okay, that's the sensation of baby coming down through the pelvis. We want it to open now, rather than if you're, quote, over Kegeled, either consciously or unconsciously, your body is to tighten up. So having that like contract up and then the let go, and have that be as much of the quote training is so powerful. And in my prenatal wellness class that I taught just a week after that conversation with Heather, I was able to switch it. But like, all right, guys, this is how I taught it 2 weeks ago. Now I have more information. So I hope women hearing this will take some stress away from the to Kegel or not to Kegel question.
You bet. You bet.
And there's been a couple of women that I worked with personally that they were doing a lot of ballistic up and down jumping and or running that caused the pelvic floor to be pretty tight. Do you recommend running, or I guess, do you recommend not running? Do you not recommend not box jumping and those kind of things, or how would you have them navigate that?
Well, I want to say I want to be specific that I feel like running and box jumping might be two different levels. I would not recommend box jumping only for the fear of falling and abdominal trauma. But I would recommend running if her body's responding well to it, meaning that she still needs to make sure she's practicing her Kegels in the concentric and eccentric phase, and that if she can still do that, then I would recommend absolutely running. If she's not able to contract and release, then she might be adding to more of that over tightness in her pelvic floor. The recommendations are that if a woman has been running, she should continue to run if she still feels like it and it's working for her body. So it's really an individual decision, and whoever is helping counsel her or train her to really have her be real honest with how her body's responding to whatever fitness she's doing and if it's working for her or not. And again, coming back to, can she still concentrically and eccentrically load the pelvic floor? And if that's the case, then yeah, keep going. I just get concerned specifically around things that might cause her to trip and fall, like a box jump. That's a pretty severe exercise during pregnancy. That would make me a little nervous.
Right. And runners run, right? So I've worked with athletes enough to know that if I tell a runner to stop running for a period of time to recover from an injury outside of pregnancy, like they're like, "Oh, what else you got, doc? Can it take slower?" But the runners that I've worked with here really are honest with themselves. They're modifying it. Like, I'm not going as much, or I'm switching to elliptical. The challenge comes is like, I don't have that runner's high. That was my major stress relief. And that's kind of part of, I try and work with women there to find another stress reliever, because obviously in motherhood, there's going to be times where there's stress with being a mom and having a newborn that you're not going to be able to go for a run to burn it off, but to have other strategies that aren't as, endorphin releasing as a run possibly, but having other stress relieving strategies than just the run.
Absolutely, because if that's your thing and that's your stress relief, that's your place of creativity, that's your alone time. That can be an identity loss as well. It can also mean going into a little bit of some depression during pregnancy because they've lost kind of who they were and what they did and what gave them those endorphins. So you're absolutely right. Trying to have a plan and work strategically with her to say, let's think ahead of this and put some things in place so that you still feel like you're getting that release, because that's crucial.
And communicating that the more you throttle down on the run and let that go and switch over to other things is going to allow you to get back to it postpartum more effectively, because you're not at risk of injury, whether it's prolapse on the pelvic floor or tripping and falling, knees, ankles, hips, those kind of things.
Right, exactly.
Good. So can you describe the generally the Fit4Baby program of like what a class is like and what kind of exercises they do for those people that are interested in that program? Sure.
When developing Fit4Baby, we found that there was a big gap or void in the fitness industry around prenatal fitness that in research has shown to be the most beneficial for moms. So just so that the audience knows, one of the main researchers in the world of prenatal fitness is a gentleman named Dr. James Clapp. He actually wrote a book called Exercising Through Your Pregnancy, which I highly recommend. He's been studying women in fitness for several decades now. And the research that points to the biggest return on investment, if you will, biggest return on your time is weight bearing and resistance training, meaning walking, running, using some sort of resistance, whether it's resistance bands like we do in Fit4Baby or weights. And, there has been a void of that kind of experience in the fitness industry. We've really seen more of like prenatal yoga, Pilates, aqua, all of which are wonderful. However, the biggest benefit, like I said, is weight bearing and resistance training. So we created our Fit for Baby classes with that in mind. So we either have a class that we call a traveling class, which you're outside, it could be at a park in a neighborhood, and you either walk or run to what we call different stations. So you go to walk or run to stop at a fence, and we get a resistance band, and we work on strength, usually compound exercises, meaning upper and lower body at the same time, training her for life and motherhood. And then we travel on, a different location. The class is usually about an hour. We also have indoor locations, which we run more like a circuit class, which is usually a bunch of exercises going on at the same time, and women move through the circuit. The focus with Fit for Baby is, again, getting that heart rate up, focusing in on strengthening the body so that we help combat or reverse what the body's trying to do during pregnancy, which is postural dysfunction. So kyphosis, or pulling the shoulders forward. We want to make sure that we're strengthening the upper back. We want to make sure we're strengthening the core, that we're strengthening lower body as well, because of the lower body needed in labor and delivery. And then, of course, that getting up and getting down once that baby comes home. A lot of it has to do with, and a lot of our Fit4Mom programs specifically, not just Fit for Baby, have to do with strengthening the posterior muscular chain and opening up the anterior muscular chain. So just as human beings, our anterior muscular chain tends to shorten down and tighten because most of our world happens anteriorly, happens in front of us. And during pregnancy, it becomes even more the case where everything is pulling us forward. And if we're not spending time on strengthening our back specifically, it's just going to allow for the shoulders to drop forward and for the weakness to happen in both the muscles between the shoulder blades and even in the glutes. So during pregnancy, we're really trying to touch on all of that. The other thing we're trying to do is help her understand a little bit more. So our trainers are trained to understand not just the physical changes during pregnancy, but the cardiovascular and respiratory changes, so that we can be a source of light and education with these ladies and help dispel some of the myths that they're hearing in their world, in their communities. I often joke that a lot of these myths are perpetuated by mother-in-laws. I'm not too sure why that's the case, but just to help them kind of, cross some things off their list of worries and anxiety. And it's really because they just don't have the information. Right. And so if our trainers throughout the time that they're training them in Fit for Baby can say, oh, this is why, or you might be feeling this, and this is why this is happening. It can really be a time for a woman to really get a good amount of knowledge, and knowledge is power, and she can help maybe relax and enjoy the process a little bit more. The other benefit of Fit for Baby is that it connects these women at a similar time in their life. Women are communicators, they are connectors, and so if we can get them together at this really beautiful time, they can create and have a village of other women that they can connect to, that they can ask questions with, that they can laugh about things. And that is a really powerful thing when it comes to mood, when it comes to self-efficacy, just so many benefits. The other thing around Fit for Baby that we feel so proud of is that we've created a program that could actually potentially change the rest of her life. And what I mean by that is they've done a lot of studies around the psychology of women during the prenatal part of their life. And they found that psychologically, because they realized that it's not just about them anymore, it's about baby also, that they're psychologically really, really rich to make lifelong health and wellness changes. So they've seen that when a woman decides to take her health and put her health as a priority during pregnancy, she's way more likely to keep doing that the rest of her life. And so if we can get this woman to come to Fit for Baby, make that change, to help benefit mom and baby, we're finding that she's actually going to stick with it. So really, really proud of the program, and hoping that it can continue to grow.
Well, and one of the things we love about your program and why we wanted to bring it here is how comprehensive it is in just what you described. And not only is it just a fitness class, but you're creating a lot of information around nutrition and other exercise programs, as well as the community feel. And then you also continue that community in stroller strides and then into Fit4Mom later on. So that's something we've started to see in our wellness center, that moms that are coming in either for services or classes or whatever, they're all pregnant at the same time, then they're exchanging numbers and then wanting to see the babies on the other side. And the same thing I think is going to be true for Fit4Baby as well, because that always happens in the classes. There's kind of a cluster of a bunch of 26-weekers that all then all are at the same classes and then get to enjoy motherhood together.
Absolutely. I mean, the reality is we need each other. And if we just keep trying to go it alone, it's a lot harder than when you can connect to others and share the similar experiences.
Right. Well, Farel, how can women learn more about Fit4Baby, the pregnancy program, and the other programs that you have?
You bet. The best way is go to fit4mom.com. So that's fit, the number 4, and mom.com. And then you can just pull up all of our programs, go specifically to Fit4Baby. But then, like you mentioned before, we also have stroller strides for when baby is born, workouts to do with kids in the stroller. An offshoot of that is stroller bar, similar to some of the bar classes that are happening in communities, but you get to do this with your stroller and your baby. And then beyond that, usually it's a graduate from those programs, is Body Back, and that's for moms to do with at any age and stage of motherhood. So the website has a wealth of information. I'm also very ready and willing if anyone has any specific questions. If they want to email me directly, it's Farel@fit4mom.com. I'm happy to do that.
All right, well, thank you. That's nice of you. I'll make sure that those links are available in the show notes and on the website, so people can click right over to it. So in our last minutes here, Farel, what's the major take-home message you'd like moms to hear from our conversation today?
I think the biggest one that I'd like to make sure that most moms, or all moms, recognize is that in a healthy pregnancy, it's just that. Pregnancy is a state of health. It's not a state of disability. And when you can add fitness to a healthy pregnancy, it not only enhances the experience of mom, it also enhances the experience of baby. There's so much new research around the benefits of baby in utero when he or she is growing in an exercising mom, that it's an exciting time and that it's a time to really take your own health and wellness into your own hands. And have a very different experience during pregnancy than had you been fearful and stayed stagnant. Right.
And what about for the little baby? Is there a message you'd like to whisper in their little ear?
Yeah, just welcome to this world. And, I often say about my children that I just feel so blessed that they chose me. And so to really enjoy the mom that they chose, and to take a look at their mom as they grow and realize that the example that they've shown both when these babies were in utero or when they were even as they come out, watch that mom, see how she takes care of herself, because that's going to be a great example for how you want to live your life.
Beautiful. Well, Farel, thank you so much for being here today. There was so much information you shared. I think it's going to be really helpful for our listeners. I really appreciate you taking the time.
You bet. You bet. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us today. For more information about this episode and other natural childbirth and parenting topics, please visit us at capwellnesscenter.com or message us on our Facebook page with any questions you might have. We here at the CAP Wellness Center look forward to helping you and your family be as happy and healthy as you can be.